Diane, logging in. Good to see your name, but good to have y'all. So, 2025, I didn't see very many of you last week. So, what's happening with everybody? How are the holidays? How's the new year so far? What are some wins? You guys know the deal. Let's do it. Let's just be like chi 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 chi. All the good things. Let's get some positive momentum because I know there's bad things, there's good things, there's all the things. So, who wants to say something?
I can start.
All right.
I have had a few setbacks with some things, but I was really happy because I joined the volleyball league, and Monday night was my first volleyball game. So,
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Where are you
yeah,
doing that at?
we play at
At where?
Lux Middle
Lux.
School.
Okay. If everybody can mute when you're not talking, because it whenever we're all not muted, it interrupts the sound. So just everybody mute and then come off mute when you want to say something. So thanks. Lux Middle School. So indoor on a hard court. Wow. Fun.
Yep. I learned that my body does not move as much as it did when I was in high school.
Well, there's that just means there's an opportunity for growth, right?
That's right.
Work
Exactly.
on
Going
some
out of my comfort
flexibility.
zone.
Do some yoga maybe
Yeah.
before, yeah. These
Yep.
are all opportunities. So good job, Nicole. Anybody else? Michelle, good to see you. Who wants to share? Diane.
Well, I've back to the gym after my surgery and lifting weights, and I'm on track to do that 3 times a week and water aerobics 3 times a week. So that's my goal, and I'm on track these first 2 weeks.
Nice job. Good work. That's what it's about. Set those goals, and that's what we talked about last week. For those of you who weren't here and didn't watch it, was goal setting and some making sure we're setting goals realistically, obtainably, and that we can sustain, and that's what it's all about. So good job, Diane. Anybody else? I love it, guys. See, I don't know if this makes anybody else happy, but it makes me happy.
I can share.
Tucker.
Yeah, I had time this week to do my one-on-one with you, and I've had a pretty good week. So prep some food, so I'm doing pretty good.
Awesome, man. Cool, cool. Keep up the good work.
We finally got Christmas over, so I'm hopefully on track now. Um, my big thing is trying to get off sugar after the 3 times of celebrating Christmas and New Year's and getting to the gym. So I'm finally on a track.
Good for you. Yes, yeah, of course. We talk about this all the time. We get off track. We just got to get back on track. No shame, no guilt. It happens. Happens to all of us. So good job, Janine. Anybody else?
I can go. I had my 1 and 1 too. So I had a lower MSQ again. And then I have, let's see here. Well, the going to hit class keeps getting easier. I used to only be at like do it twice or 3 times a week, but you forget how far you've come because like there's new people and they're sucking air. So you're like, it gets easier. Like I've been at this longer than you. So like just seeing others struggle, that's you don't want to see them struggle, but at the same time, it make you feel a little bit better and you realize how far you've come because you don't realize it because you feel like you die every day.
Yeah, totally
But
get that. Yeah.
yeah, you're making progress. So that feels good. And then I went to dinner with a friend and I haven't seen in probably a couple months, but she's like, "Your skin looks amazing." And I'm like, "Well, thank you."
That's a
So
good compliment to
maybe
get.
I'm healing inside out. That's what my goal was. So yeah, I've never heard that. So I was like, I'll take that as a win.
That's a huge win. Don't just
Yes.
kind of
Yeah.
take it. Take it. That's big.
Yes, for
That's
sure.
awesome.
Yes.
Good
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
No one's complimented me on my skin lately. All I hear is, "Daddy, you're getting more gray hair." I'm like, well, stop it." Anybody else? All right. Shoot, my win changed. I'm going to share 2 wins because my biggest win is hearing all you guys' wins. This was fun. Like, I love it when you guys give some shout outs like that. That's exciting stuff to hear. All the little, all the big. So, and then another one I was going to share with you guys this week. For those of you who don't follow like my social medias, I have my personal Facebook account, which I use for business too. But then I have a Dr. Scott Facebook and Instagram. I think I shared, a lot of you guys will remember this, a number of months ago. I think it was in October. I went to Springfield, Missouri, and I was selected out of I don't know how many people they started with, to be the health expert on this new nonprofit called Harvest Solutions. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, but I just went through an interview process. A friend of mine said, "Hey, you should try to do this." So I went through this interview process, and it took a while, and they selected me. And they have 7 experts in different areas. I'm the health, and there's like a business, and there's like a coach. I don't know what all they have, but anyway, the point of this is we went down to Springfield, and they have a studio, and I got my hair and makeup done, and all the whole 9 yards. It was like a professional production. And I developed basically some mini courses that the whole purpose of this nonprofit is to get information out to the masses eventually. So it's a new company started by a guy who just has a heart for people that need a second chance in life. He started out doing some stuff with, ex-felons and then women who've been in, homes like battered and abuse and all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of where he first thought this was going to go, but then he actually decided, man, we're just going to get this to as many people as possible. So it's exciting because this week, they've been editing and doing all sorts of stuff with these, and they're going to release them sometime this year. I have not seen any of the final products of the stuff I taught, but they started to release some social media stuff. So I don't know if you guys saw, I reposted their post of me just having some fun with some stuff. So if you don't, just follow my pages. It's just kind of fun stuff, and follow Harvest Solutions too. It's just a great company. The guy has just a big heart for helping people in many, many ways. So anyway, it was cool to see some of that come to fruition. And then I got an email today, actually about an hour ago, and one of the ladies that helps him run the thing invited me back to shoot more content and continue that journey with them. So it's just super cool. I don't know what that's going to look like, but anything that I can do to, just help educate and share, that's what I'm here for. So anyway, oh goodness gracious, tonight. Okay, guys, are you ready for this? Because I'm going to make a big statement here. Here's what I want you guys to do. Everybody, think about this. I want you to go into tonight's talk. This is going to apply to some of you guys. Okay, so I know that because I know all of your situations. It will apply to some of you. It will not apply to others yet. Hopefully never. That's the goal. But I want you to go into this thinking about the people in your life that this would be information they need to hear, and with the mindset of literally, this is the big statement. Whose life are you guys going to save by passing this talk along? I want you guys, when I send this link out tomorrow, okay, of this recording, I want you to take it, neighbor, coworker, spouse, somebody. Every single one of us is going to know somebody, a lot of people probably in our lives that need to hear this. Okay, so did I build it up enough? Here we go. So hopefully this goes well. Let me share my screen. Oops. Oh, see, here we go. I'm screwing it up. Share screen. All right, let's give me a thumbs up when you can see that. You can see it? Okay, Heather, thanks. Okay, so a few weeks ago before the holidays, I talked about a little bit about cholesterol and lipids, and it's such a huge deal in our healthcare system, and just cardiovascular disease, #1 killer in men and women in the country. But what is the truth? Now, tonight, we're going to talk a little bit more about cholesterol, lipids, that kind of stuff, but we're specifically going to talk about statin medications. Statin medications are the #1 prescribed medication in the country. This is the part that I'm telling you, all of us know somebody that's taking statins. Okay, we all do. If you don't know it, you're like, oh, I don't know anybody. Just start asking. A lot of people are. Okay, so And again, I will preface this for anybody, maybe if you pass this along and people are like, who is this guy talking? I want to make sure I'm very clear that I am not in any sense of the word anti-medicine. Medications save lives. I work in a medical doctor's office. That's very integrative in his approach, but he does prescribe medications when needed. They are needed in certain instances, antibiotics, maybe even a statin at some point. But what we're missing is the truth of what's actually going on in people's bodies that are driving doctors to give them a statin. And is that actually a smart decision, or is it just kind of like what we've done forever and they're ignoring some of the more recent evidence and science? That's what we're going to cover. So cholesterol. First of all, the myth that is out there that's not entirely true is that, if we eat a lot of cholesterol in our food, that's going to drive our cholesterol levels up. That's not actually how it works. It's not that simple. Cholesterol in our food largely, for the most part, does not impact our endogenous cholesterol level. So the cholesterol that's in our blood and kind of circulating around and that we need. Okay. So that might be news to a lot of people, right? It's not what we've been told. It's not what we've been taught, but other things having to do with food. So food does matter in a sense. Okay. So this is a good example. If you guys look at your summaries I've given you and you look back at past talks, I've had Doug, I've drawn a blank on his last name, but he raises grass-fed natural beef, and there's other people around Lincoln and wherever you guys are at that do this too, but there's a huge difference in the grass-fed, no antibiotic, no hormones added beef versus the store-bought stuff. So all the way back to 2005, there was a study that proved, for example, that red meat, first of all, doesn't raise cholesterol. Like red meat, good red meat, healthy red meat. The processing, the added stuff is actually what's causing more of that issue. Okay, so then we're going to get to the why that is in a minute. So it may not even be the food itself. It's likely all the junk that they're putting in it, okay, which is causing and wreaking havoc in our bodies. Decades later, right? So 2005, this was already hypothesized before 2005 in the 90s, but in 2005, these studies showed this. But literally, we're in 2025 now. So 2 decades later, this science is largely still being ignored, and the same advice and treatments are just continuing to be kind of given to people with I don't know, we don't know why, but it's not changed, and it's really, really sad. So a couple other stats. I think I said this last time, but your brain is made of 20-25% cholesterol. So your brain is literally a quarter cholesterol. 70 to 80% of that cholesterol, if you've heard of myelin before, that's the protection kind of coating around nerves. And I'm sure you guys all know somebody probably that's had a demyelinating disease. So literally the myelin around those nerves starts to die, disintegrate. It just has issues. It doesn't help conduct the nerve, the electrical currents through the nerves anymore. So something like multiple sclerosis is a perfect example. So what's the link here? Your brain needs cholesterol. And then also, aside from multiple sclerosis, that's kind of the one most people would think of with a demyelinating disease, but there is more and more data and evidence with even cognitive decline, things like dementia and Alzheimer's being myelinating issues as well. And we've talked about this before. Most of you on the call have heard this, that there's a lot of research and a lot of experts that are saying Alzheimer's and dementia is basically type 3 diabetes. It all intertwines. Like, what does cholesterol and myelin and our brain health, body health, and type 3 diabetes? Diabetes has to do with sugar, right? Yes, absolutely. And we're going to get to kind of more detail on what I mean by all this here in a second. Another thing is hormones. So a lot of us have hormone dysregulation, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, all of these, and even cortisol, like stress hormones. They all have to have cholesterol to be made and also to help regulate them. So if we have dysregulation in our hormones, like vitamin D, like estrogen, testosterone, for example, there's probably some sort of an underlying issue with cholesterol, other fats in the body, and how they're being metabolized, okay? So hopefully that all makes sense. even the World Health Organization, so a compilation, there was people who looked at all of these studies across a long period of time in the WHO database, the World Health Organization database, and they were looking at the top 20 all-cause mortality. So the top 20 things that basically kill people across the country, but also the world. And it actually showed what they found was astonishing. People with low cholesterol levels were dying at much higher rates than those with high cholesterol. Let that sink in for a second, because how many of us have grown up hearing high cholesterol is going to kill you, it's going to cause cardiovascular issues, it's going to cause all these issues, right? I mean, all of us should be raising our hands because that's been such a thing that's been but low cholesterol has been shown to be linked to so many more things as well. So too high cholesterol, bad, but too low of cholesterol, also bad. That should speak volumes, just how important cholesterol actually is. Now, studies have shown that those with low cholesterol have higher rates of, and these are just examples, but dementia. So low cholesterol levels, again, going back to why that is, because the brain depends on cholesterol, dementia, Alzheimer's, things like that. Even accidents. It's like, what does accidents have to do with things? They were showing links with like things like car accidents and things like that because of call it brain fog or cognitive issues of some sort. These people were then getting in accidents because of. So they were correlating these things, which is just absolutely phenomenal. Immune system issues, of course, for sure. Your immune system is not going to be functioning at high of levels if you have issues with this. Hormones, like we already talked about. And of course, we've already said multiple times, brain health, and that's going to be mental health stuff too, not just dementia and Alzheimer's. But we know, and of course, the evidence shows time and time again that depression, anxiety, even ADHD, so much of this is correlated to this. Okay. So, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The list could go on and on and on. My point is, this is just really important stuff to understand. We're going to talk about, what's being done and why that might be missing the boat here in a minute. So majority of your blood cholesterol, so if you get a blood draw, which even when I draw you guys' blood, we look at cholesterol levels and triglycerides and LDL and all that stuff, because there is some validity into seeing that. But majority of your blood cholesterol levels, you can see on your lab work, for example, is not coming from red meat and egg yolks. Like we said at the first slide, it's just not coming from your food. And a side note, okay, yolks of eggs. I know not everybody can have eggs. Some of us are intolerant to those, but the yolks of eggs are packed full of nutrients that are just good for you. Choline, for example, is just so good for your brain health and your cell membranes, which is super important to get things in and out of our cells that should and should not be there. Your brain and your nervous system, you need choline to regulate memory, mood, muscle control, and so many other functions. So the reason I put this in here is because, man, every time it's like every single time I go to the grocery store, I feel like I go back to the dairy section, wherever the eggs are or whatever. And I see people getting like egg whites, and it's like, why? And it's actually, if any of you have ever been involved in fitness and like bodybuilding, bodybuilders are notorious for like egg whites, and they try to keep the egg yolks out of that. That's a myth that's been debunked a long time ago. Okay, the egg yolks is the most nutritious part of an egg, okay, for example. So again, what's the truth? What's really going on is kind of my point here. Another side note, choline can be found in egg yolks, red meat, and liver at the highest levels, but it also is in chicken, salmon, cod, tilapia, even some vegetables like broccoli, asparagus, red potatoes, legumes, lima beans, chickpeas, peas, lentils, in a little bit smaller amounts. But if you are a person who's struggling with cognitive issues, even memory, focus, attention, these kind of things, screenshot this. Like, these kind of foods in your diet on a daily basis can really, really help turn that around. And of course, you can also supplement with things like choline if you have to. But again, you guys know me, food first, lifestyle first, and then supplements are there to just help if we need them. All right, so think about this. Cholesterol, like we've said, is needed for hormone production. So kind of back to hormones for a second. So you see this little diagram on the right. You start with cholesterol. Then you some of you will recognize this word, pregnenolone, because I run that in some of your labs. Then you'll recognize, a lot of you will recognize DHEA. I run that in a lot of your labs. Not a lot of primary physicians and even specialists are running those in labs, and I don't understand why. It's like if you just run testosterone and you just run estrogen and you just even run cortisol, you really don't know what's going on. Is pregnenolone the issue? Or maybe even go back further, is it the cholesterol issue that's causing this cascade of hormone production to be dysregulated or to not be well? Okay, so in response to, what did I say here? In response to this, your body start to produce more cholesterol. Okay, cholesterol is needed for hormone production. As we get older, we all know hormones do start to decline naturally. Testosterone does, and women, you guys know, like menopause and all these things, hormones do change. There is a reality to that. So think about this. If your hormones start going down, your body is very smart. It's trying to kind of like pick up the pieces and trying to get this to stay regulated. So it actually starts producing more cholesterol. So your body makes cholesterol, mostly in the liver, but other places as well. So think about that. Hormones are going down, or if there's big time hormone dysregulation in someone, say in their 40s, 50s, and their cholesterol sky high and no one knows why, and they can't figure it out, even the medications aren't helping, blah, blah, blah. This is probably one of the reasons why. Okay, your body's making it because of an underlying issue of this hormone kind of dysregulation. You guys kind of following me? My point is all of these things are so intertwined. You can't just take a blood test and say, okay, I got high cholesterol, I need a statin to lower it. That's ultimately my point. So blah, blah, blah. I just said a lot of stuff. If you have high cholesterol, on blood work, on your annual physical, and this is where a lot of people need to hear this. Annual physical, high cholesterol. Number one, they should be talking to you about lifestyle and diet, nutrition, and hopefully they are. But if they aren't, or they just say you need a statin med, there's a man, it's missing the mark. It's missing the mark. I guess that's the nicest way I can put it. Find a new doctor. I mean, honestly. And that's going to step on a lot of toes if people listen to this, but it's the truth. And I'm going to go into a little bit more why. So it's one reason as we age, we might see cholesterol start to kind of creep up and nothing else in your life has changed. I hear this all the time. Well, I haven't changed anything, but my cholesterol keeps going up. And now all of a sudden they're telling me I need medications. Okay. Underlying issues, what's actually going on in the body. Now, if someone has really high cholesterol, it does take a while oftentimes to turn it around. Number one, we got to figure out the root cause. And number two, it takes lifestyle choices and changes. And it can take a while. So there's no magic bullet here, but this is what's going to save people. Okay. Because here we go. Well, actually, okay. I thought the next slide was, okay. Pause that. Metabolic health. Okay. Insulin resistance, blood sugar issues. That is, we talked about this about 3 weeks ago or whatever. That is oftentimes underlying all of these issues as well. So 2021 data showed 94% of US adults have less than good metabolic health. What does metabolic health mean? Well, look at the chart on the right. If your blood pressure is 120 over 80, if your fasting glucose is less than 100, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if you don't have good metabolic health, okay, then you're more at risk for cardiovascular disease, high cholesterol, all these things. But the problem is that according to these numbers on this chart, like good metabolic health isn't even really that good. Fasting glucose of 100 is pre-diabetes, but yet that's the standard we continue to live by. Okay, so does that make sense? A waist circumference in a man being 40 inches and women in as being 34, like, it's not optimal. Like, so these are the standards that they're looking at this stuff, and 94% of people still didn't meet these standards. Okay. Okay. So there's no drug, there's no supplement. I already said that there's no magic pill for this. Lifestyle changes, supplements can help, but it's not the long-term answer either. Okay. And here's another quick side note tangent, because I know a lot of you guys have, weight loss goals, and some people are struggling and there's weight loss resistance. if there's insulin issues, if there's metabolic issues, tying back to kind of cholesterol, everything we're talking about tonight, your body literally cannot burn the fat. So technically, it's mobilizing the fat to use it as energy. It quite literally gets locked in your fat cells. Okay, so glucose, sugar gets put in your fat cells and it can't come out if you have this blood sugar dysregulation, cholesterol, insulin resistance type issues. Okay, so if I've been talking to you guys about this, or if your labs showed this, this is really important stuff, you know, right? So eating the right foods, getting your exercise. And we're going to talk about that in just a second again. But even if fat, so another kind of tangent on that, even if fat does get out of the fat cells, you have to have muscle in order to actually burn it. That's where fat is burned and used, is in skeletal lean muscle mass. This is one of the reasons you'll hear me preach over and over why strength training is a must for all of us to do in some way, some shape or form. That's why when a couple of you guys talked about working out tonight and in doing strength training, it's so important. So continue to work on that. And if you haven't started that yet, have questions, let me know, because we need to get you on a good program, just at something better than nothing. Many of you can look at your in-body scans and start to kind of like make more sense of this. It's not just about fat percentage. You got to look at that lean mass percentage and like actually how many pounds of your total weight is skeletal muscle mass. And then the percentage ratio of fat mass to skeletal mass. Okay. If you start increasing that skeletal muscle, the fat will start coming down, almost guaranteed. Almost guaranteed, even if your weight stays the same. If I weigh 200 pounds, okay, but I start putting on muscle, my fat will start decreasing. I still might weigh 200 pounds, but I'm going to start looking and feeling a whole lot different. Okay, so that's where the scale is not always the best way. You guys have heard that before. We must build more muscle. So now follow me here. Insulin resistance and blood sugar issues are the root causes of this whole thing we're talking about, cardiometabolic health, and thus cardiovascular disease, and thus cholesterol issues. This is how all this ties together. Insulin resistance, blood sugar issues are primarily the root cause of cardiometabolic health, cholesterol issues, other lipid issues, and cardiovascular disease. Okay? So cholesterol's not the problem. It's insulin resistance and blood sugar issues 9 times out of 10. Okay? But if somehow, let's just say somehow someone dodges the bullet of having a cardiovascular issue, like a heart attack, a stroke, blood pressure issues, there can be genetic things involved too where someone might dodge that bullet. Okay? But guess what the evidence is showing? The studies have showed, even if that's the case, they're going to be more likely to end up with the cognitive stuff, the dementia, the Alzheimer's, right? 4 times more risk of developing cognitive issues like those two things, dementia and Alzheimer's, if they have all of this going on, insulin resistance, blood sugar issues, etc. Okay, you guys following me? Any questions so far? Sometimes I kind of feel like I'm all over the place, but okay. And just remember, tie this back. A lot of the evidence and a lot of the researchers, top researchers in this stuff, are calling dementia and Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes. Okay. And most of these people have these cholesterol and lipid issues. All right. Okay. So again, I don't know. I threw this in there because I don't know. Sometimes I'm just trying to drive home a point, but I don't want to offend anybody or be cruel. This is definitely just, you guys know me. I mean, I love people. I want to help people. But I'll tell you, nobody wants cardiovascular disease. No one wants to have a heart attack. No one wants to have dementia and Alzheimer's, right? I mean, no one wishes that on anybody. We all know someone, whether it's a loved one or whoever, who's dealt with these things though, right? Who's had strokes, who's had heart attacks, who has dementia, who has Alzheimer's. I've had it in my family and it's devastating, right? It devastates families, relationships, finances, like just all of it. So go back to the old saying and what I always preach to you guys. What's your why? Like, why are you trying to get healthier? Why are you on this journey, right? Don't just think about yourself right now though, because this might apply to some of you, like I said in the beginning. Think about your spouse. Think about your kids. Think about your neighbors. Specifically with as we all age, our kids don't deserve to have to cope and deal with you or maybe your spouse or another loved one in your family having these things happen to them. Why do I say this right now? Because we know that these things are not only preventable, but oftentimes at certain stages, they're reversible. Okay. Now, you can't always, if someone's like dementia, Alzheimer's, like end stages, no, they might be able to be helped, made more comfortable. But you're not reversing that, as far as I know, anyway, from the evidence. But early stage stuff, absolutely reversible, guys. Like this doesn't have to happen, and it's happening to so many people, and it's ruining families. So just use that as motivation to try to spread the word. Tell people kind of some of the stuff you're learning, and of course, have them get a hold of me because I can talk to them as well. I'm happy to talk to people. So kind of back to the point before, strength training. There's so many health experts out there that know the truth of this stuff that literally say, before you even start worrying about weight loss, strength train first. Start lifting weights, start doing resistance bands, start working on building that skeletal muscle mass. It's that important. It's that important for your blood sugar. It's that important for insulin and insulin resistance. And therefore, that's going to bleed over into having better cholesterol levels and all the stuff, decreasing cardiovascular risk, all of these things, dementia, Alzheimer's, all of it. Okay. It's that important. So think about your muscle as like an insurance policy to keep those blood sugars in check. Okay. And for the long term. Okay, so then there's, again, this is a whole nother talk for another day maybe, but GLP-1, metformin, like all these medications that we're seeing a lot of amazing results with. People are definitely losing weight, but again, I'll preach over and over and over, just like supplements. I even mentioned berberine in here. I give people berberine all the time. I've given some of you guys berberine. None of these things are the fix. They're not the fix. They're helping, yes. People will see results, but they're supposed to be a help, a little push. The lifestyle issues, the problems will come back if they don't change the lifestyle issues and actually get to the root cause of what's going on here. Okay. So now statins. And here's the big part of the talk. Man, that was the intro, guys. Yeah. I'm kidding. Okay. Statins. All right. The number one prescribed drug in America, number one. Okay. That should tell volumes. Like how many people are struggling with this? There's mounting evidence every single day that statins are actually causing type 2 diabetes in people. Like not just a little bit, like a lot of it. Think about that for a second. We're putting someone on a statin to decrease cholesterol, to decrease cardiovascular risk, but yet we're causing type 2 diabetes and a whole host of other things. Okay? This is not me just saying this. This is what it's doing. Okay? There's also more evidence showing statins may be causing hypothyroidism as well. Okay? Not good. The thyroid gland is crucial, right? Statins will also negatively impact hormones, which are probably already not in a good place based on everything we already talked about. Because there's cholesterol issues, there's going to be hormone issues. A lot of this, like this quote and some of the stuff I'm going to talk to you about now comes from a guy named Dr. John Kim. He's a medical doctor, pharmacist, integrative cardiologist type guy. All his background, he's a smart dude. Statin drugs are most commonly used for lowering cholesterol based on the flawed hypothesis that elevated cholesterol is what causes heart disease. Okay? Smart people that know the truth, that are trying to get it out there. This guy's been trying to get this out there for years and years and years. It's not taking hold in mainstream. What he and others are finding, of course, for many years, dating all the way back to pre-2005 into the 90s, is cardiovascular issues are more from sugar-laden issues. Go back to the glucose, the blood sugar issues, insulin issues, oxidative stress, so inflammation in our cells, and leaky gut issues. He even throws that one in there. So, of course, you guys all know I'm big on healing the gut first, and this is another reason why, because all of these things are intertwined, right? So that's what their research is showing. Sugar issues, oxidative stress, inflammation, and leaky gut are causing more cardiovascular issues than cholesterol. Okay, so now here's a list of the problems with statins, what can happen. It can cause drug-induced nutrient depletion. So I've said this many times. There's a website you can actually go on and type in a medication. You can look and see evidence and papers that have been written about all of the vitamins and nutrients that are depleted because of the drug. So for statins, copper is like an essential nutrient in our bodies. So it's so involved. It's kind of like magnesium. Magnesium is so important. Copper is important. CoQ10, which is one of the more powerful antioxidants of your body. Selenium, super important for a lot of things, specifically thyroid hormones. Zinc, vitamin K2, which again, if you remember back from past talks, K2 is really important to interplay with vitamin D to get calcium to go into your bones, not your arteries, right? So K2, pretty important to have that in sufficient supply with vitamin D, and statins have actually been shown to reduce that. Kind of an oxymoron a little bit. So statins can stop the production of cholesterol in the body. Yeah, that's what they're meant to do, lower cholesterol, which based on earlier slides can be very problematic for other systems, such as the hormonal system, musculoskeletal, joint aches and pains, very common, one of them, probably the most common complaints with people that have been on statins. Diabetes, again, I've already said this, but this comes from the CDC, guys. This isn't like stuff that I'm just pulling off of like random weird journals that you've never heard of. This is CDC stuff. They even say that the research has found that using statins increases blood sugar because statins can stop your body's insulin from working well. And this can put people who use statins at higher risk for developing type 2 diabetes. It's happening every day. Number 5, dementia and memory loss. We already talked about that. Number 6, I haven't said this yet. The statins have been shown to disrupt and cause a whole lot of havoc in the gut microbiome. The good bacteria, like you guys all know how important that is. I don't need to hit that again, but if anybody's watching this who doesn't know me, your gut microbiome, the good bacteria in your gut, make neurotransmitters for your brain, for your nervous system, make hormones, like help digest food. I mean, all of the things that are crucial. Your gut is crucial in order for us to be healthy. Okay, and statin meds are definitely disrupting that, just like kind of similar to an antibiotic. Okay, number 7, it decreases the production of bile acid from your liver. That's not good because we need bile to help digest fats, right? Okay, kind of getting the point here. There's a lot going on. Number 8, it's been shown to cause mitochondrial damage. The mitochondria, if you don't know what those are, that is the part of the cell, every cell of your body that has a mitochondria in it is producing your energy. Okay, so it produces ATP, your energy. You need energy not to just feel energized like I am tonight. I'm all ramped up, but you need energy for every process. You need energy for your heart to beat. You need energy for your immune system to work properly. You need energy, right? That's how we survive. That's how we thrive. So obviously damage to the mitochondria is going to cause a whole heck of a lot of problems. Number 9, protein metabolism is affected by statins, which decreases recovery and healing. So it kind of goes back to number 3, like musculoskeletal and joint pain, but also immune system. I mean, just everything. You're just not going to recover. You're not going to heal as well. I see this a lot. Back in my past life when I worked more like hands-on with people, that and again back 10 years ago I didn't put these pieces together, which man I wish I would have, but it's like if I had patients in my rehab and chiropractic that were on some of these types of medications and then they had to have, let's say, a knee replacement or some sort of surgery, they didn't do well. Those were the patients who did not do as well, right? And this is one of the reasons, because it literally affects your recovery and healing time because of protein metabolism. And finally, there's actually a black spot box warning on a lot of the statin medications because they cause liver dysfunction. That ain't good. That ain't good, y'all. So to conclude, I think I'm almost done here. Many experts are saying this drug is causing so many other issues that it is the perfect gateway drug to needing to use other pharmaceutical interventions. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm like an evidence-based guy, but this is interesting. If you just think about it, is there, listen, I'm friends with a lot of medical docs And they are most every one of them I know is just a good person. They're literally in it to help people. But it comes down to some of the training, and it was beyond them. Like, you wouldn't know this stuff unless you dive into the evidence and actually the science and the research that's being done. And medical doctors, most of them are so strapped for time and they're so stressed out because they're so overburdened by just how sick America is that they literally they don't have time to look at the evidence and the research that's coming out, right? So whether it's a corrupt system or whether it's just ignorance, I don't really know. That's all speculation, but the top experts in these fields are saying this is a perfect gateway drug because it's causing so many other issues with people that they're going to eventually need XYZ. Okay? Scary stuff. What are we actually treating? That's the question that should be asked. What are we treating? High cholesterol? We need to get your cholesterol down to decrease cardiovascular risk. That's kind of the what's happening now. But hopefully you guys understand after tonight that that's not what we should be treating. It's not what we should be looking at. We need to be looking at deeper level root cause stuff. And again, why is all of this not headline news? You got me. Like I said, guys like Dr. Kim, was that his name? Anyway, I forget his name, but he's been trying. There's so many people who've been trying to get this on the front pages for so many years, and they're just, it just doesn't happen. Okay, it should be being attacked head on. With some of the recent, I'm not into politics much at all, but I mean, I've followed RFK Jr. for a lot of years, and I love what he does with the Children's Health Defense, and he's a super smart guy. I mean, we're already seeing some changes. They're trying to lobby to get food dyes out of food, which it would be amazing because they're poisonous, right? We know food dyes is a tangent, but you guys have heard me say this probably if you've been around, but food dyes like Red 40 have been directly linked to ADHD in kids. I mean, it's just crazy. Why are we putting that crap in our food? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And a lot of this evidence, like I said earlier, has been around since the 90s and definitely since the early 2000s, like some of those studies I said in referenced in 2005. Okay. So when I talk about referrals, guys, like, I don't take on a ton of new people because I want to give you guys all the attention you deserve. But man, this is stuff that people need to know. This is a perfect example of our medical system that is definitely failing us. And I'm not scared to say it because I even talk to medical doctors who feel the same exact way, who've been prescribing statins for years and years and years. And they finally understood. And they're like, wow, I can't believe I did that for that many years. I've talked to some of them who literally feel bad about it. But they didn't know any different. They didn't know any different, right? So our medical system, in a lot of ways, you got to be your own advocate. You got to ask a lot of questions. You got to do a lot of research. And of course, I'm here for people. But if someone is on a statin, number one, I don't take people off medications. Never. It's not in my scope of practice. I don't do it. I have them work with their physicians. But if they're willing to put in the work, if you want them to work with someone like me, doesn't have to be me. Get them to anybody who knows this stuff. They likely will take themselves off or their prescribing medical doctor over time. Seen it happen over and over again, and it can happen for them. And then they can decrease the risk of all of those other things we talked about: diabetes, dementia, Alzheimer's, all of these things. The reduction in the risk for these things drops drastically if you just implement the lifestyle stuff. Okay, so just think about those consequences and just let other people know the truth. Okay. That's the end for now. I feel like I just was like a fire hydrant to you guys tonight, but whew. Anyway, does anybody have any questions? We're right at, wow. I timed that out pretty good. 9:14. Anybody have questions on that? I know I gave you, man, that was a ton of information. Did that make sense? Is anybody lost and you're like, I don't even know what you just said? No? Okay. No questions? Did all of that make sense?
Are statins, can you get off them right away, or do you have to gradually get off them?
Well, again, I'll never give that kind of advice because it's not my scope, but usually it's going to be not right away. Usually it's going to be a weaning, kind of titrating down process over time. Like I said in one of those slides, some of this stuff can take a long time to heal. You guys
Mhm.
all know that at this point. But man, well worth the journey.
Mhm.
So worth the journey.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Good question. Anything else? Everybody know who knows someone that's taking statins, and it doesn't have to be statins. Is just what I focused on tonight, guys. Like, of course, because it has directly what the topic is. But I mean, there's so many different medications that could fit into a similar talk like this. So, but I know we all probably know people that are depending on this specific med. So anyway, if you feel so inclined, send this talk to them. Maybe that would make sense to them. Maybe it'll open up some doors for them to have a conversation. You guys know too, like I do, just call. I'll do free consult calls with people, whether they want to ever work with me or not a big deal. I mean, just as if I can educate them and get them just thinking differently, even. I mean, that's always a goal of mine too. So, okay. All right. Everybody's ready for bed now? All right, y'all. Well, good to see all your bright, shining faces again. I'm looking forward to 2025. Everybody have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.